Hey, I did a Ono tutorial a while ago. Enough has changed though that I decided to do another one. So first off, if you have a fully updated version of Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition for the PC, you will find your recent characters in patch 106 Battle Regulation Latest AE, and they're all going to be here. And this is a Street Fighter 4 moveset editor basically, and those are your movesets. Strangely, for the last patch, Capcom did it weird, and they moved 6 characters over to 106 Battle Regulation 104. So make sure your characters are not in here first. So for this example, I'm going to change Dudley. He has one charge, which is his Thunderbolt move. You charge down for 55 frames. Let's move that to, say, 20 frames. And the storage index is for multiple charges, like you can charge down and back and keep your back input like how Balrog does for his super. Or you can make it lose your input, your charge whenever you do the move. Okay, so we got input motions, which is pretty self-explanatory. There's a buffer, charge, joy, mash, 360 is a joy. So you have a 8 frame buffer, forward, down, forward, and they're all lenient. So you can press any forward, any down direction. You can actually do down, forward, down, forward, down, forward to do that move. Or down, forward, down, forward is what most people would do. So he's actually, yeah, so here 2 lenient and a strict. You got 8 frames and 12 frames. He actually has a move that's really hard to do on keyboard. Let me see which one it is. Uh, Maybe not. All these don't look that hard. Forward, neutral, down, back, forward. That's interesting. Does he actually use that input? So that seems like a weird input to me. So goes forward, back to forward. I'm going to look at his moves. So this is a list of all of his moves, and we can scroll over to uh, input motion, X counter. So, yeah, so he doesn't actually use this really bizarre punch X. This is just an unused motion that they put in there, but they never use it. I wonder what they were going to do with that. Anyway, so there's a lot of useful information in here. This is basically the list of his moves uh, with all the motions and everything compiled together. So he doesn't actually have a close attacks, but you got the name, you got the type of input, you've got buttons on press. Most special moves are on press and on release. So you can, that's what negative edge is on the on release. Uh, and you can also have a stick in it as part of the input. So you have to press forward and light punch or down and light punch. Lazy stick means it can be any down direction here, and strict stick means it has to be exactly forward. You can't do forward down. So he doesn't have restrictions for anything but his ultra, I think. Oh, maybe it's his rose. Uh, where is his rose? His rose probably has a restriction. Oh, here we did go. Yeah, it's considered a projectile. So you can't do a projectile move when there's already a projectile out. Also, the ultras use restrictions and a few other things like stances. And then he's got position restrictions. So you do must be far, must be close, so that you can only do a special. You can only do a close normal and a far normal. That's how you would separate them. And must be high, must be low is about how high you are in the air. So you can make it so you can't do a move close to the ground. And you put the distance in here so you can have multiple different distances. EX requirement is the amount of EX meter you need to do the move. So Most of the time it's the same as the EX cost if it actually costs anything. 250 is 1 meter. If it's negative, you gain meter, so he gains 20 meter from doing a light thunderbolt, 30 meter from doing a heavy thunderbolt. Most of the time they're the same all the way down, so it's kind of interesting that he has different ones. Then we got ultra requirement and ultra cost. It costs 400. 400 meters is a full ultra, so 200 meters half a full ultra bar, and it uses up all of it. Even if you have more than 400 by cheating or something, it'll use. Well, it won't use up all of it if you have 3,000. But if you have 400, it'll use up all of it. And then the input motion. We looked at the motions before. Dash. You pick it from a list here. Then you have what states you can do them in. So most of his normals he can do standing or crouching. All of his air moves he can do in the air. There's also a down for the few moves you can do when you're on the ground, when you've been knocked down. So even though you can do these in the air, you actually can't unless they're also on the cancel list. These are these are just like his easiest example is his focus attack. So you can only do it when standing and crouching. So if you try to cancel your uppercut in its airborne frames, it won't come out, even if you even if the cancel window is there. Okay, so miscellaneous restrictions. Does he have any? Okay, so this here means he can only do it if the opponent is in a hit stun or block stun. I'm guessing this is to prevent some kind of infinite. Well, I don't know. I'd have to literally look at that. But he has two versions of ducking light. One of the versions he he does when the opponent's in block stun or hit stun, and the other version he does if the opponent isn't in anything. And you see they go to different scripts. And these are all the scripts that it connects to. We'll take a look at scripts later. And features, these are just for focus scaling, ultra scaling, super finishes, that kind of thing. And the rest of the move is just CPU data, how likely it is to do a move at any particular point. So let's take a look at the cancel window. So this is what I was talking about with like ducking EX. You can do it in the air, but it's not actually in his air cancel list. And these first few in the cancel list, you have to keep them the same way because the game expects it in this order up to, I think, like reversal, or up to jumping probably. Yeah, you need to keep those 6 in this order or else the game can mess up. And you can add stuff to it. And you'll notice that some things are not moves, like jumping isn't considered a move even though if it's an animation. And also you won't see dashing in the cancel list. Dashing is still considered is still in a move window, so you can save and cancel, focus cancel, because that isn't handled automatically by the game. Yeah, you have the dashes there. So this is where he sets his target combos, and you see actually there's different moves for his target combos. So his let's see, yeah, so his 5 HP, 5 is just neutral. If you look at the numpad, you can get an idea where the directions are. So 9 is up. But his 5 HP on his target combo is different from his other 5 HP. And they actually use different scripts, too, in addition to different moves. So the cancel window is pretty self-explanatory. Let's take a look at his scripts. Okay, so you have a name. Let's looking at the header first, an index. And the index is very important for these first few, up until probably guarding. It's important to keep them in the same index. Actually, all the damage stuff too, so up to like blow wall. You need to really make sure that those are in the right index. If you mess around with them too much, it'll screw it up. Because there's nowhere that defines where crouch is. It has to be index 1, if that makes sense. And jumping back is always index 11, and so forth. So, and flow, I don't know if I'll handle that, but it lets you basically cancel stuff automatically. Or say when a Shoryuken lands, you can make it go to a different animation on land. That's the way those normally work. And you can make it go to any frame. -1 will make it go to the next frame, or the same frame rather, I believe. So you can do some really fancy stuff using flows. Animations, it just uses this animation. And there's no real animation editor right now, so you kind of have to stick to these animations. And you'll notice that, say, let's take a look at his machine gun. So there's only 2 animations for machine gun, even though he has 4 different machine guns. So all the light, medium, and hard all use the same animation. They're just different things here in the BAC. And you can change his face, which is fun. Why don't we change his crouching face so that he is tired? Why not? And it's using frames 0 to 160 of this animation, and it's 0 to 160 of this animation, if that makes sense. But it's only using 1 frame of animation from his face, but it's using it for all 160 frames. Transition is just to make things nice when you flow. So like when you crouch, you don't go from your standing animation straight into your crouching animation. You actually kind of blends the frames together. That's what the transition does. It's just aesthetics. State, he's crouching. You can add air, counter hit, force turn, flip. A lot of cool things in here. Make yourself invisible. Make yourself immovable. Ignore physics. Bakuma's air fireball does that. Speed. So speed is kind of a complicated issue. Let me go to his close jab. Okay, so if you look at his close jab, it's interrupted frame 22. It's actually a 32 frame move, but you interrupted at frame 22. And all that means is that after frame 22, you can cancel it with anything. You can cancel it with ducking, you can cancel it with walking, you can cancel it with anything. It's the frame the move basically ends at frame 22. And you'll see that the first hitbox frame is actually frame 9. Now, if you know Dudley, you know it's actually a 3-frame jab, I think. So you'll see that the multiplier in the speed is 3. So to figure out how many actual frames this 9 is, you have to take into account it's going 3 times as fast, if that makes sense. So this number doesn't actually tell you in-game times. None of the frame data here is going to actually be in-game times. You have to take all these numbers and multiply them by the speed factor to get how much actual frames it's going to cost. So you could change this to 0.5 and it would make his startup much, much slower. So where were we? Speed physics. So there are 2 types of movement. You'll notice in the flags here, I'm not going to get into the difference between physics 1 and physics 2, but the difference between physics and normal is you'll see that his forward walk, it causes 0.05 velocity. And if you look at his dash, well, there's no physics here. It just uses the movement from his animation. And if you actually flow into a different attack, he'll teleport back to where you started because it didn't actually have any physics to it. So basically physics, you manually input speeds and stuff, but some moves, they have their own built-in movement that you can use with a normal. You can also add physics to a normal though, but normals can screw you up if you use flows and other things like that. So let's go to cancels. You'll notice that dashes can be canceled. So it starts frame 18 to frame 15. That's the time you can input your cancel. And the move you cancel actually come out on frame 23 to 25. And if you notice, you interrupt this dash at frame 23, so it comes out after the dash, basically. You can choose, you can get any move from the reversal cancel list, which is basically just his special moves, super moves, and ultras. Any of these can be used as a reversal. And you can do it either on hit, on block, on whiff. Start just means you can do it at any time. You don't need to hit them first. And stop. Okay, so hitbox. Let's go to a light punch. This first thing is is how far away the opponent can block and what frames. So from the 22nd frame, 1.2 out, it basically draws a box. If the opponent is in there and he presses back, he'll go into blocking animation. It's actually longer than the move. You see, the 22 lasts until the end of the move, will still cause the opponent to block. The reason for that is just because you can cancel these into another light punch, I guess. Okay, so his actual first hitbox starts from 9th frame, goes to 15th frame. This is the box it draws. It's 0.15 up from his hand. It's 0.75 out from his hand. 0.35 up, and it draws a little square. No, rectangle, yeah. ID is if you have multiple hitboxes. Let's see if he has one like that. Okay, his far, or I guess his close hard kick, it actually has 3 hitboxes. That's weird. What's the difference between them? Is that the move? Why does this move have 3 hitboxes? I actually don't know. But they actually have separate IDs, so in theory they could all hit. Is there anything else that keeps them from hitting? I don't understand this at all. They have slightly different boxes and different frames. Oh, okay. They all have 0 juggle. So this actually doesn't have much to do with the juggle. It's similar to the ID. So it only will use one of these hitboxes, basically. But each frame of hitbox uses a different hitbox. That's weird. His 6 light punch, which is his forward light punch, is the same way. They got the same move here. So it only uses one of them. That's odd. And these you actually see they have the same frame. So it looks like one of them is higher up, and one of them is not as high up. So it's actually, that's kind of weird. So you can make them overheads, lows, unblockables. Air only hits airborne opponents. You can also change it here. Let's get rid of this header. You can can cross up. Only moves with this selected can actually cross up the opponent. Don't hit standing, don't hit jumping, that kind of thing. Break armor. It's all set there. Juggle potential. The way the juggle system works is when the opponent's out of the air, their juggle is incremented, 1 for most moves, and after that, only moves with higher juggle potential can combo, or with equal or higher. So if I make this juggle potential 1, then he's going to be able to jab somebody after they've been hit by a let's say a dragon punch focus dash. And these are the actual hitbox data it uses. So let's do a quick modification. Why don't we make it so he can cancel his hard punch with a hard kick. So that's going to be a pretty easy change. We'll just add a cancel. And we'll say 5 hard kick. Cancel. And we'll add his 5 hard kick to it. Then we'll go to his hard punch and just add that cancel list. So now let's save. Oops. And if you go into the game,
It's the battle of the century. Fight!
you can now cancel his hard punch into his hard kick. It's a really easy thing to do. Okay, next thing we'll do is something a little bit more complicated. Let's take a look at his Thunderbolt, and more specifically his EX Thunderbolt, and see if we can figure out how it works. And now I haven't actually looked at this, so I don't know. I'm learning the same as you. So his flow on land, he goes into this animation, Thunderbolt Ground, basically. And at frame 44 to frame 45, he always goes to Thunderbolt EX, which is the same animation, target frame 44. Which means that if there's something that prevents him from moving up, he'll continue going to frame 44. So he'll basically be stuck in frame 44. And there's a few ways to do this. Like if you look at his air moves, they all, at the end of them, they go to physics 0. So if you end up too high in the air for this and it runs out of animations frames, it'll actually stop animating and stay in whatever the last one is. Okay? And that basically does the same thing as this here. Except I think it works, doing it this way works a little bit nicer with the on-land flow. So this has an unusual flag. If you go to raw, you'll see it's 2. I don't know what that means. Your guess is as good as mine. And uses that animation. No transition. First 10 frames counter hit. And they're actually 10 frames because there's no speed modifier. Then you have a bunch of frames of air counter hit. They do it weird here, but this could all basically be 1. Yeah, that's done weird. Physics. So you got y velocity and y acceleration. The difference between acceleration and velocity is acceleration constantly applies. This acceleration here is basically gravity. And you can also have negative gravity. And you also have gravity, just think of it as gravity. You can have gravity along the x direction. Because that's basically what it is. And here's a weird physics flag. I don't know what that means. But I'm going to assume it's just doing a y velocity. And then he moves in the x direction. And then he starts moving down. So his hitbox starts on frame 34. Oh, I didn't touch invincibilities, did I? Why don't I look at his jet upper? We can talk about invincibilities there. So it's pretty easy. Has throw invincibility for first 11 frames, which actually isn't 11 frames. You have to remember that. But throw invincibility location is basically everywhere. He's got hit and projectile invincibility pretty much everywhere. Where doesn't he have it? Yeah, it looks like he has hit and projectile invincibility for 11 frames everywhere. They did that weird, because you can just leave it blank and it'll count everything. He's got hit and projectile invincibility on his waist and his head from up to frame 16. Oh, we skipped a bunch of stuff. We went straight to hitboxes. Uh, and you see his EX1 has a little bit more invincibility. Not as much throw invincibility, but you can see he's actually in the air for those frames, so he doesn't need it. He's basically throw invincible for the whole thing. And you can also give him armor, and counter is like Dudley's counter, which you can see here. He's only got counter hit for the head area. We didn't look at hurt box either. So if you don't draw if you don't define a rectangle here for your hurt box, it'll automatically draw one that fits the model. But you can manually define one, and it's pretty obvious how that works. And then you've got ETC, which is basically effects. So when he does a jet upper, there's a little dust cloud. That's all that is there. And you can see his EX1. He has the EX yellow. This is the yellow part appear. This is the yellow part disappear. And these are just like dust cloud type things. Target lock has to do with throws. I guess we can show you that. Here's his throw. So the way his throw works, he has a hitbox from frames 3 to 5. If this hitbox hits, it goes to throw forward attack. And as soon as throw forward attack hits, it's going to make the opponent enter throw forward damage. Right, and then it's going to release him from throw forward damage right here, I think. And everything else works normally. But basically, it forces the opponent to do an animation, with this animation here. So where were we? We were looking at Thunderbolt EX. So what I want to do is I want to make it hit on the way up. So why don't we just make a new hitbox. Let's say from frame 0 to, when does he stop moving up? 27? We'll do it to like 26. I'll just give him a hitbox here and try it out, see what that does.
Training stage. Fight locale. Are you ready?
Oh, and remember I made his charge time quicker, so he charges in 20 frames. Oh, just pressing the wrong button. So he hits on the way up. It's not really the hit I want it to be. But, you'd actually combo it now. So that's a pretty easy change to make. So let me go into his hitbox state and I can show you. Actually, I don't want to make it on the 0 frame because that's a little too quick. When does he start moving up? It doesn't actually start moving up until his 10th frame, I think. So let's see, 10 to 26. That's probably a better number. Let's take a look at the hitbox table, which is really just the damage. And we'll find number 140 right here. Okay, so the times 4 must mean it's being used 5 times, I guess. I don't know. It does 20 damage, 30 stun. Does 25 damage, 38 stun on counter hit. Does 10 damage and block. It causes a hit if the opponent is on the ground or crouching. It causes a blow if they're in the air. And a blow just means it launches them. It puts them in a juggleable state. So there are 3 types of effects really. There's hit, there's script. Well, there's 4. Hit, script, block, blow. And I'm not going to worry about bounds. So a hit puts it in one of these damaging animations. You need to have it set to that. A guard, obviously, a guard animation. A blow, it's going to be a blow animation, which is the juggleable. And the scripts are going to be stuff like damage upper, which makes them stand up, damage lower. This is a hard knockdown, and these are focus attacks. Those are all scripts rather than having a regular hit effect. Okay, hit stop is the amount of time that the opponent that both players pause. So when you hit the opponent, you stop moving for 4 frames. The opponent stops moving for 6 frames, and he shakes for all 6 of those frames. Normally, these are the same. This is kind of unusual, where you actually, after being hit, you start moving 2 frames before the opponent. Hit effect, this is a graphic. You can have a second graphic. Hit sound effect, and the target sound effect. This is the bang that hits, and this is what the opponent says, ow. The amount of score it gives you in arcade mode. If you use a Thunderbolt, EX Thunderbolt in arcade mode, you get a lot of points. How about that? That just seems fair. This is the amount of meter it gives a target. It doesn't give you anything because it's an EX move. Most normal moves will give you some meter. Juggle Start. This is the amount, whoops. This is the amount of juggle it adds on your first hit. So remember in the hitbox, you saw juggle increment. That's if you combo in. That's if it juggles when the opponent's already in the air. Basically, when the opponent's already in hit stun and in the air, this will be the number it uses. Otherwise, for the start of a juggle, it'll use this number. Okay, and you see it causes 2 more hits done on counter hit than on regular. Uh, this is for just grounded hits done. It doesn't work for air hits done. And it's not actually 20 frames. There's a formula to work out how many actual frames this is, but it's for the most part linear. So it's got an untechable flag, which is interesting. You don't see this a lot, but it makes it so the opponent can't quick rise after being knocked down. And this XY velocity is only for airborne opponents. It makes them go 0.01 in the X direction away from you and zero point 0.1 up. It also pushes back 0.1. This is just for grounded opponents. And this negative 0.007, that's gravity. Okay, so I didn't actually change anything. What I am going to change is I'm going to make it go, instead of using that hitbox, I'm going to make it use his jet upper hitbox. And now when he gets hit, it should act like he got a jet upper to the face. We'll see what this looks like. Yeah, so now he's launched like he got hit by that jet upper. Whoops. Is this? I think it's a homing move, right? Yeah. So let's take a look at how that homing works, see if you can make it home better. So, right here is air tracking. So for only 1 frame, it adjusts itself so it's pointed roughly at the opponent. Frame 11. This actually makes them ignore physics for the most part too, I believe. And this is when he's moving up. So why don't we make it have another adjustment? Let's see, where's the first hitbox? 34. Right before he starts moving down. So let's say 25. Or 24, I guess. I don't know if that'll be... that's not going to be a big change, but it might make it track a little bit better. And because we have the jet upper hitbox now, why don't we actually make him do a jet upper and see what that looks like. Where is his... Okay, so we don't want it the whole thing, but let's say till frame 26. 26. And so we're not using this one from 26, so we'll go 26. And we'll see what this looks like.
Training stage. Fists will fly. Who will emerge a champion? Fight!
So I kind of like the way that looks. Looks like he does a jet upper and then cancels it into his thunderbolt. And let's see how the tracking looks. Actually looks worse, doesn't it? Looks like he's never going to hit him. Yeah. Let me get rid of that tracking. So let's see. Where's the tracking? Why don't we make him track earlier? So let's change this from 0 to 5 and see what that does. Whoops, it didn't actually take. Okay. Actually, let me make sure that actually changed it, because sometimes it's squirrely. Okay, that changed it. That's actually going to have him tracking for 5 frames. So we'll see what that looks like. So maybe the final change is I'm going to make him so will pass through the opponent, because he's pushing the opponent away on that first hit. So I think it's going to look nicer if, say, for the first 28 frames, he has push invincibility, which means he'll go straight through the opponent rather than pushing him. And it's going to be everywhere. We'll see what that looks like.
Training stage. Fight locale. Are you ready? Fight!
Okay, so he's actually moving up instead of tracking. And he's doing it earlier than I'd like him to. But the hit actually looks pretty nice. So I'm going to get rid of that tracking. Actually, why does it have the... Oh, I hate this. You actually have to manually change these. Let's see. I want it to be... I don't know what the number for this is. I guess this VX air tracking tracks in the Y direction, which is weird, or something. I think regular air tracking just tracks in the X direction.
Training stage. The stage of the battle has begun. Fight!
No, it's still not quite right. Let's see how it actually tracks first, I guess. He's higher, so... Okay. So that actually tracks pretty well. But it doesn't... The animation doesn't look quite right. So what I'm going to do is maybe skip the first 5 frames of animation. Let's say 8 frames, because let's see, he's... Yeah, we'll see what this looks like. And we're going to make it so he's in the air the entire time, starting from frame 0. We'll see what this looks like. I'm probably going to make it so he goes down faster, too.
Fists will fly. It's the battle of the century. Fight!
Oops. Oh, that is really tricky. I don't know if I like that. Because, let's see. Yeah, that actually crosses up if you're that close. That is really nasty. And he doesn't actually come down on him. Or does it? Alright, I'm gonna try it on him jumping. So it actually works pretty well if it hits. No, it doesn't. Alright, I'm just gonna make the tracking later. What happens if we do from, say, frame 25 to 30? I just want to see what this looks like.
Training stage. The stage of... It's the battle of the century. Fight!
That looks weird. Oh, it's because I go to the jet upper animation. So let me see how the tracking actually works. Not that great. Actually, putting the tracking seems to hurt it. Stop from tracking, like he's always going to land in front. And let's give it a juggle potential too. just so I can do that combo. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So each hit has increasing juggle potential, basically. And we'll change this back the way it was. Mm. Put this later.
Training stage. Destination. Who will emerge a champion? Fight!
That's actually kind of funny. I like that. That's pretty useless, though. See, because the tracking, you should actually be pretty accurate tracking now. Yeah, the tracking is better, but the tracking negates the physics for the time it's active. So let me just get rid of the tracking for now. I think I want him to go down faster, though. When he starts really going down is starting here. So let's try and double that, see what that does. He may not get all the hits now because he's going down too fast. So I may need to double the speed.
Fight locale. Who will emerge a champion? Fight!
That actually looks pretty good. I'm happy with the way that looks. Does it cross up? Okay, that works for me. Hope you learned something. Give it a try. It's actually really easy to use. Uh, actually, let's look at the before I leave. Let's look at his rose throw, because he actually has a projectile, and you see he's got 3 different types of rose throws. Uh, this depends on where the opponent is, basically. Well, actually, let's look at his scripts so we can let's find his rose throw. Rose throw far, rose throw medium, rose. It looks like it took him a while to get used to this. So this is the one that calls a projectile. It calls projectile E, which if you know hex is 15. That's weird. There's no 15. Oh, no, no. Okay, no. Sorry, it calls projectile 0, which is the very first one. I guess it doesn't use the other rose throws. Yeah, projectile 0. E is just a location where the projectile comes out. So why don't we make this thunderbolt make a little rose that follows after it. So this is going to be index 3. And let's get rid of this physics for the most part. I just want it to have gravity and nothing else. Okay. And we'll copy this script and let's throw it on his thunderbolt. So right before he starts going down, let's say frame 33 or 34. Let's call it 34. And we'll see what this looks like. See, I'm trying to give people a reason to use Thunderbolt, because really, I mean, honestly, there's no reason to use it.
Fight!
but being able to combo into it, and where's my rose? Let me go find my rose. Did I not save? Well, that didn't take. Should still have been doing a rose. Oh, the frames didn't change either. What did I say? 34? Let me make sure that actually changed. Actually, let me check the physics too. Yeah. Oh, wait. Yeah. That's actually, I need it. Yeah. That's right. Let's give that a try.
Training stage. Fists will fly and the battle has begun. Fight!
Okay, so I did see a rose in there somewhere. That rose is way later than I want it to be though. And actually, let's make the physics push it out a little farther forward. So we'll add some X velocity to it. And we'll make it come out earlier.